Welcome to Heartglow CEO, where high achievers evolve into purpose-driven powerhouses. I'm Casey Rossi, your integrative leadership coach. Join us to break free from people-pleasing and burnout, exploring mindset, embodiment, and soul alignment. Discover expert insights, success stories, and actionable tips for holistic wealth on your terms. This is where transformation meets the modern, mission-driven leader. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Seen and Surrendered. I'm delighted you're here. If you're tuning in, chances are you're someone who senses more than what's merely on the surface. Someone attuned to subtle whispers of meaning, patterns, and connections. This episode is for you. Today, I want to discuss something that came up during a lunch with a friend. I used a phrase, ether webs, and she paused, looked at me, and said, "What is that?" I realized in that moment how vital it is to translate what we feel into what we can point to, because our spiritual knowing often outpaces our vocabulary. So let's lean in together. Let's explore the idea of energetic webs, of the unseen architecture behind our lives, of sacred geometry, serendipity, pattern matching, and that beautiful thread where destiny and daily life entwine. Let's talk about trusting that all things are happening for you, moving you forward, even when the underside feels messy, how the front side of the rug is masterfully woven if you allow yourself to believe it. When I said ether webs, what I meant was this. Each of us carries and is embedded with an energetic pattern or network far more complex than the visible persona or the day-to-day role that we play. In esoteric traditions, you'll read about the etheric body, the subtle energetic layer that underlies and interpenetrates the physical form. Some call it the blueprint of the body, the network of lines of force, the matrix upon which physical form rests. Just take a minute and think about that for a minute. The matrix upon which physical form rests. In one sense, the web is the network of your soul's unfolding, the highways of purpose, the connections you make, the synchronicities, the internal map that you might not see yet, but that is laying out nonetheless. In another sense, the web is the interconnection of all things around you, other people, events, opportunities, even the seeming detours. I remember being a teenager when someone gave me this metaphor of the Oriental rug, and I never forgot it. I think about it often. And it is that the underside of the Oriental rug, when you look at it, all the threads, the crisscrossing, the knots, the messy reverse side, you rarely show that to the world. Yet from the top side, the pattern is pristine and intentional. And I always look at that as the divine master plan, that we can be entangled in chaos when we're just focused on that underside, but knowing that when we zoom out, when we take perspective from top down and we're looking at our life and our karma and the people in it and how we show up, the role that we play, all of that is orchestrated and it's beautifully designed. This is the metaphor that your divine master plan may look messy underneath, but there is a pattern, a strategy, a design to each left, right, and center turn. So what tradition or philosophy captures this idea? One useful lens is sacred geometry. I am by no means an expert, but I've always been fascinated by shapes You'll notice that in my logo. You'll notice that if you see any of my paintings that I've shared online. I just love how shapes intersect and the feeling that they evoke. Sacred geometry teaches us that the shapes and patterns we see in nature, spirals, hexagons, Fibonacci sequences, fractals, reflect the blueprint of creation. It's really fascinating to just get lost in the center of a blooming lily, or to look right now in fall and just check out the leaves. And if you take one leaf and you look at all the veins and the shapes and all the intricate patterns of the sacred geometry in one falling leaf, it's pretty mind-blowing. In other words, the universe is not chaotic, random, or purely accidental, but has a design and a rhythm. One article calls it the universal language of shape and spirit. There's also the concept of the etheric or subtle body, the first layer of the human energy field. And if you like this, I'm going to link another podcast. I had a wonderful guest that talks about these layers. I'm going to link that previous podcast in the show notes. But that first layer of this human energy field that functions as the web of vitality and life force. So some of this may be new, and to some listeners are like, yep, I am picking up what you're putting down. But this is really just combining this idea that you are embedded in an energetic geometry. You are part of a web of meaning, relationship, and unfolding. So this topic can be as complex as you want it to be, but it also can be as simple as is comfortable for you to fully embody it right here, right now. So I want to just invite you to consider the option that you are embedded in an energetic geometry. You are part of a web of meaning, relationship, and it's unfolding in the perfect right time. I love pattern matching. To me, it's beyond serendipity. I look at it as stars scattered for us to connect the dots. This becomes a spiritual practice, noticing the signs, the multiples, the repeating shapes in your life. I love to do this in coaching sessions. It is really fun for me. Many times, though, as a coach, my job is really to let you discover the constellations. So there is this excitement when I can pattern match, but part of it is to just hold the space so you can pattern match, because just like algorithms, we may be seeing something through our own lens and our own perception and have completely different outcomes with the same scattered dots to connect. So the beauty is really to be in this sacred bubble of connection and community with one another during a coaching session, holding that space to recognize what bubbles up, and then for me to kind of hold the silence so you're able to pattern match. I may bring something to your attention because I'm a lover of NLP and language. So if I hear you say something often, and sometimes if I hear it multiple times, I'll put little chicken hatches down of like, okay, this is a really strong thing right now that's being present in the relationship. Maybe it's the word disappointment. Maybe it's the word anxious, or it's not fair, or whatever. If I start to hear that as you're sharing your story with me multiple times, I may bring that to your attention, because that is really a part of the pattern that we're uncovering. So the web is hooking into those signals. You might see a repeating number, sequence, a motif in conversation like I just shared, like a repetitive word or theme, a theme in your language, a theme in your dreams. It's the system calling your attention. In fact, contemporary philosophical investigation of numerology and sacred geometry supports the idea that universal patterns show up across traditions, cultures, and faiths. I love this because it is a universal through line. There is unity in diversity, which is a governing law of the universe. By inviting yourself to see the web, you invite yourself to align with the design rather than simply reacting to chaos. Think about that for a minute. When you are in alignment, when you have a sense of coherence, whether that is through breath work, meditation, or prayer, whatever the thing that you use to ground and anchor yourself, you invite yourself to see the web. You invite yourself to align with the design rather than simply react to the chaos. So back to the underside of the Oriental rug. If you don't provide yourself those beautiful gifts and opportunities of silence, then we are just struggling to untangle ourselves from the web, question the web, be pissed off at the web, be knotted up. We could be knotted up in our bellies, having anxiety. We can be knotted up in our muscles, feeling that shoulder tension, getting chronic headaches. These are just signs that we are stuck in that underside of the rug. When we can take a breath, when we can honor the gifts of silence, pause long enough to feel the feelings and sensation of non-doing. This is when you can feel this alignment and coherence with the design. When you can get that perspective and step back and trust, even though you may not fully believe, there's a willingness to trust that there is a divine plan for you, that there is a beautiful architectural design just for you. This is about trusting the messy underside. Let's pause and honor an important truth. If you're someone who leads, influences, or owns your vision, you often have it in your mind. You know the language, you speak the terms, you may even teach it. And God, can I relate to this? But the embodiment part, that's where the gap often lives. It's been a subject of interest for me since I turned 50 over 3 years ago. It's something that is a practice, a fascination, sometimes a frustration. Here's the invitation. Trust the underside of your rug. Trust the tangles and the threads you don't see yet. Because from the top side, you are already weaving into this pattern. Each meeting, each moment, each unexpected wrong turn is not outside the design, it is a part of it. When you're faced with waiting, uncertainty, not perfect clarity, lean into the web. Recognize that the lines of force you don't yet see are still alive. And that's like an interesting terminology, lines of force. And I don't, what comes to mind with that is I think of David R. Hawkins. He wrote a beautiful book that discriminates between power and force. So I want to invite you, when you hear that terminology, lines of force, there's like an unseen nature, but it's not a pushing, it's a power. The unseen network of energy is still moving you forward. This is not passive fatalism. It's sacred surrender. It is active trust. I know there is an intelligence behind this. I will walk into it. I invite you to take a breath here. So, my friend, how do you live this in your daily life? Here are 3 prompts. 1, notice repeating motifs. Maybe it's a phrase someone uses, a number that keeps showing up, a certain kind of conversation or synchronicity. Write it down. Ask yourself, is this a thread in my web? Number 2, expand your awareness of the etheric body. Even if the words feel unfamiliar, simply sense yourself as more than your physical form. You are energy, you are pattern, you are part of a network. Breathe. Visualize the web under you, around you, and holding you. And number 3, choose trust over control. This really goes back into that power versus force. This goes back into surrender, which is such a big and beautiful topic. The underside may look messy. That's okay. You don't have to fix or force every thread. Ask, how can I stay aligned? How can I walk this week with awareness of design? What is the next right step for me? And then just be open to listening. So my friend asked, where can I learn more? What is this philosophy called? And the short answer is there is no single label. It draws from sacred geometry, subtle energy bodywork, metaphysics, pattern theory, even quantum metaphors of interconnectedness. We exist in webs of relationship, meaning, and energy. What matters is you feel the truth of it. You sense that you are not random, adrift, and disconnected, but woven, held, part of the great web. That your destiny is not only out there in the big plan, but is being lived thread by thread, day by day, in the small choices, in the intuitive nudges, in the repeated motifs. You are living on the front side of the rug, even if you can't see all the knots underneath. As you lead, influence, and show up, remember you are both the weaver and the woven. You are interfacing with the design and also being moved by it. Let your knowing move from the mind into the body. Breathe into your alignment. Trust the unseen highways. Walk forward with open hands and let grace show up. Thank you so much for being here. If this resonated, I invite you to pause right now. Take a deep breath. I love to put hand over heart, one hand over belly. This helps me feel aligned. This helps me sit up straighter. This helps me make contact with my energy centers of heart and belly and whisper, I am part of the web. I am held by the design. I surrender into my threads. If you like this, you can rate me on your podcast player. It really helps my show. Or head over to lovethepodcast.com/brilliance. Until next time, my friend, walk with faith in your unseen architecture. See you next time.